Hi, for the second part of the chat with Narelle, I really want to explore sponsorship proposals and the components of a sponsorship proposal. And if you've just tapped into this video, Narelle Casey is the sponsorship executive with the Canberra Raiders, who are a preeminent rugby league team in Australia, operating out of the capital, Canberra, and playing in what is often described as the toughest and highest level of rugby league in the world. And as the sponsorship executive, there's no better person for us to get some advice and assistance from on sponsorship proposals. So Narelle, in a few weeks, all of the students at UC doing the sports sponsorship and media unit present a sponsorship proposal. What would you be looking for if you were there listening to the presentations and assessing if it's a sound proposal, if it's a viable proposal? What sort of things would you be looking for?
There's a few things. They would need to do a little bit of a background, so get up and tell us from what angle they've come into the proposal, yes. Because there is people who approach you and say we want to sponsor you, and then there's property available who I will go out or your students will be going out to try and fill. So towards the end of a normal season, we will do up information in regards to exactly what properties we have to sell, because that does vary from year to year. And then we do have people come in and see us and say what they're interested in. It's very important to listen to your clients in regards to what they're after. As I've mentioned previously, it is usually a combination of branding and hospitality or all sorts of things, but branding is very, very prominent. You find, very rarely do you have anyone come to see you and say, I don't want branding, because you see Coca-Cola's and McDonald's, they are all branding, but it's what else goes behind that in regards to your sponsorship proposal. So first of all, I would want a scenario of how they've gone about it. Yes. So selected a property, and then
when you say property, you mean a key feature of the sport organisation?
Yes, well, a property that you have for sale, for example.
Yes.
So it may be fence signage, it may be the new LED signage, which most people would have seen. The Narelle is just getting it on board now. It's all through the soccer over in the UK. Then it's corporate hospitality, and then it might be that people are wanting to get into your databases, wanting to access your junior sport within the Canberra Raiders. We actually run all the junior competition as well. So we need a scenario to start with. Then we need them to go through each point of what that scenario is, so what their client wanted. We don't want a proposal that is 25 pages long. We will leave that for the lawyers to do afterwards.
I'm sure my students will be pleased to hear that, yes.
We want a proposal that gives an overview of the organisation.
Yes.
Then we need the properties that they are giving forth as what their clients wanted. Yes. And then we need total investment and key. It's basically features and benefits to go through, so that their client can have a quick read through. Most of our people don't have time to read those massive documents, so it needs to be clear and precise, and the mechanisms of how they're going to fulfil that contract.
And to use visuals. Do visuals help? Or?
Visuals are probably the most important thing. So if we're looking for a major sponsorship, we take all of our as many shots as we can get of players in, if it's your major sponsor on the front or your sleeve. We replace the logos that are currently on there with the client that you are seeing with their logos on there. They love to see it. It's very visual. Most people are visual people.
Okay, so you've successfully engineered a sponsor for some piece of the club life. Then how do you maintain the best service for that sponsor? What is it? Because you do not stop the sponsor sport organisation link once you've got the sponsorship, do you?
Definitely.
How do you best service the sponsor and build upon that link? And in a sense, please the sponsor and market the sponsor. And how do you best do that?
The scenario changes from sponsor to sponsor. the first thing is to ensure that everything that you have promised them is carried out in their contract.
Yes.
Very, very important. You have your game days every week or fortnight that you go around and you visit your sponsor. You make sure that
yes.
they are happy. Put on your smiling face and off you go. It doesn't matter how you feel.
Yes. Yes.
Then it's also visiting their workplaces as well throughout the year. So if
yes.
you have a major sponsor, you may be out there once a week, it may be once a month, depending on their needs level.
Yes.
There is also sometimes a point where you have to diplomatically pull them back a little bit. Sometimes
yes.
they get a little bit excited. You've given them everything you want, and quite often we do over-deliver. I
yes.
would say 90% of the time we
yes.
over-deliver on what we've promised in a contract.
Which is a basic principle really of
absolutely,
sponsorship, isn't it?
Yep,
yes.
absolutely.
Under promise and over deliver.
Exactly. So visiting them,
yes.
and just keeping that relationship. We are in contact with our sponsors via email every single week. We are also in contact with our sponsors, as I said, with visits, on game day, and via the web. We have a newsletter that's called the Crusade newsletter, which is delivered out to our sponsors on a weekly basis throughout the season.
And then when the time comes, say the season finishes or whatever, how do we evaluate how effective the sponsorship has been?
Again, depending on the levels, all of our
yes.
major sponsors, we have a media company that evaluates all of their signage, and they have a formula that is put to that signage that gives us a dollar amount. We also do other surveys throughout our members and fans as well. That is basically brand recognition. So we put all of those together. It ends up to be a massive document, and that gets processed and given to all of our sponsors, basically just to back up everything yes. that we know has happened already.
So the media analysis is in effect a measure of, I guess at base level, how many times the sponsor is mentioned, in what context, for how long, and then if they've had, say, 100 minutes through the season, the value of that, and if they'd had to pay for advertising, compared with what they've got through sponsorship.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. There's companies out there that sit
yes.
there and they watch all of the footage, and they have two buttons. One is a clear signage button, one is an unclear signage button, and they tap that for each sponsor that they see. It's a good way for the university students to earn some extra money as well.
Yes, yes. I hope you're serious about that, because they'll be ringing
not
you
through
at the
the
radio.
radio. It's through another
through
company.
the media companies,
yeah.
isn't it? Yes,
yeah.
because there are a lot of media watch companies in that sense of gathering cuttings, gathering TV time, and,
that's exactly
and
right.
feeding back.
Free to air, Foxtel, newspapers, yeah.
Well, it's at the stage now, folks, where I just wish that I had my mobile phone with me, because you have the number, and I know that you will have found this a really interesting and informative discussion with Narelle, because I know that I'd love to say to you, right, have you got any questions? So, if there are any questions that do arise and you want to email or text or whatever, then perhaps at some later stage we could, after the season's over, although then it's busy, we could sit down again with Ben and Narelle if we have a whole range of questions from you. So Narelle, warm thanks.
Thank you.
And you've covered, I think, exactly what the class would want, collectively and individually, and also, thank heavens, reinforced a lot of what they've had in their lectures, but also added the value of practical examples and your own experience, and certainly the insight into the sponsorship proposals rounds it out nicely. So to the class, I hope this week and the other week in the sponsorship organisation goes well, and look forward to seeing you after Easter. Thanks very much.
Thank you.